Hi everyone and welcome back to the Message Marketing Pod. I'm your host, Kristen Melotti from Melotti Media, and this is a special episode where I am interviewing and chatting with Michael Colman. He is from Local Health Marketing, and we just basically wanted to nut out between the two marketing agencies. We wanted to nut out the answers to the most typical client asked questions around the marketing space. And so we're talking like people that don't have backgrounds in marketing, but want to know what's going on and what's happening and how they can benefit from it. So Michael, I'd let you introduce yourself properly and we'll go from there.
Yeah, thanks so much. I started this agency 2 years ago and went all in on allied health marketing, which I'm so grateful that I did because the industry is just full of people, generous people, giving people. And and we all share those values. So I set out to kind of be a one-stop shop for these clinics because they're small businesses. They don't want to, deal with the IT guy and the SEO guy and the Google ads because there's just like this big kind of disconnect. So I went down this path, and my background's web design of, we would do the web design, the SEO, the Google ads, the Facebook ads, etc. And very early on, one of the big kind of issues I realized was this marketing concept of getting the messaging right. And even though, our clients come to us to get leads, it's really our job as marketers, agencies, to help them differentiate their clinics.
Yeah. So would you say then that one of the major questions that you get asked, and which I get asked too, is get me more leads? Is that essentially
That's number one?
Let's dissect this, because I agree, right? When you're working with clients, which we do as well, is we work with a lot of different clients and companies from a range of different industries. And that is primarily the main pain point is with amongst others, but it's like, how do I get more leads or conversions or drive more demand is what I usually hear as well. And so, let's start with you, Michael, then I'll jump in. How do you address that? Because usually that's the end goal and that's the pain point, but there's a lot of layers to that. How do you talk to people about that?
Yeah, so I try to steer the conversation in a bit of a different direction because I'm all about building an asset, and that asset in the way of a website. And if we can get that website to convert, so meaning for those that don't know, to make bookings online, and we focus on a conversion rate, a percentage, if we can straight off the bat get that, let's just say on average, we see a lot of clients at a 5% conversion rate. If we can get that up to 10 or 15% conversion rate, we're already getting new clients, existing clients coming to the website, but just converting them better. And that all comes down, and is where the conversation's going to go. It's getting the messaging right.
And that's right. So for people listening, so just to because I know people go, we as marketers, we get the lingo, but what Michael is trying to basically say is that when your website visitors come to your website and land on your website, it's like a diminishing factor here. So what happens is if 100 people go to your website, it might be, I'm plucking figures here. 70 might have a look around and leave. You might get 10 that fill out an inquiry, 10 that have a look at some other things, and then 10 that actually convert to become potential clients. Now that's a very simplified, completely glossed over way, but that's essentially what Michael was talking about, is that it really comes down to doing things to optimize your marketing and optimize your website so that when people land on your homepage, they know that you are the right option for them. And that's really tricky. And like you were saying, Michael, it comes down to the messaging and also the aesthetics as well. It comes down to many factors like a strong brand. So this is what I often find challenging is when a client comes to us and says, I want more leads and I want more demand generation. It's not as easy as, all right, we just turn on an ad or turn on a tap, because there's so many different factors involved, right? Like I know, Michael, you work in allied health and I work in many different industries, including health. And if you're working with, say, a makeup brand or something like that, you can get those turn on the ads, make a great landing page, and start getting those conversions. But when it comes down to medical side of things, it's not like you go, just book in your health check. There's a lot of different factors in there, like trust, explanations and all of that. So Michael, what do you usually do at this point when the client will say, okay, I get that we need to improve our messaging and our website. What do you say after this?
Yeah, so that's where we start the journey. Is we love the idea of just having just a strategy session, really, to find out, why their patients keep coming back to the clinic. And the interesting thing is once we start to delve into that, we start to find little niches within their what they prefer to treat. And we're kind of steering this conversation in, okay, well, what's your most profitable kind of type of patient? And also, who do you love to see as well? Because we don't want to see, like it's very easy to just, well, still not that easy, but you can still go to Facebook and say, okay, get $50 cost per new client or new patient, and you're only going to see that patient once. So then it's not going to become really profitable for you. And really, we want to kind of build a brand that people are going to resonate with. So, they know that with their sort of condition that you're the right clinician to see.
And that, again, Michael, you brought up something really interesting there, is that it's like the strategy session. This is where I also get a lot of people go, oh, but can't you just pluck something out of the air? And again, for all people listening, it's like a lawyer can't put a will together without knowing you. Like a builder can't build your house without understanding your lifestyle. And just like that, a marketing agency can't put together a shell until we know all of those things that Michael was discussing. And that's in his field, but it's everything. Like, if you want to say, I want more leads, that initial strategy session is absolutely essential, because I hear a lot of times people go, oh, can't you just tell me what it would be a rough cost?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, but it's like, like you were saying, Michael, it's like, what kind of clients do you have around your clinic? How popular is this service? Like, sure, you could say, Michael, it's going to cost $1,000 or $10,000, but it's literally a guess. It would be, that's why marketing agencies do that strategy session. It's not just to get in, it's to say, and one of the first things I do is get down, and set down a time, and then speak to a client and say, okay, so where are we going? What's the 12-month goal? What's the 8-month goal? All of this sort of thing, right? And then they'll say, I want this many sales, 50,000 sales. And then I'll say, like you were saying, Michael, then it's like, we need to then talk about which service will get you there. And is there enough demand for it? Have you got the support there? Do you have the resources and the content? Do you have the capacity to deliver that many services? It's all of these factors, what competitors are in your space that are taking your customers away. All of that means a very different strategy in the end. So I don't know if you get that, Michael. Do you get a lot of clients that go, oh, can't you just tell me?
Yeah, totally. And the other point as well, mate, is working with small businesses. We don't have massive budgets to work with. So we're going to get, good bang for buck. Yeah. Whereas, and I know this is the other extreme, but take like Apple, for example. They've, got, say, like $1 million ad spends a month. And it's just kind of like, let's just target everyone and we'll hit the mark, right? Because we're Apple and that, right. But the reason that because they got the budgets to back that up every single month, year on year, with sort of small business and clinics, the more targeted we can get, the cheaper it is for us to actually advertise.
There you go. Yeah. And that's what it comes down to. And the next question that we get asked is, what's the cost? And as in, how much should I be spending? And again, it's such a hard thing to answer, because like you were saying, Michael, is that how much do you want to get out there? Like, what is it that you want to offer? All of these questions are really important. And so that's what it comes down to. And I just want to make sure, reiterate to everyone that's listening, is that we can definitely get you those leads and demand and all that sort of thing. But what it comes down to is really defining those attributes of what you need. Anything else, Michael, you want to add?
Yeah, two more things. So just to add on to that sentence, so you get the right client, so we get the right patient through the door. And then with budgets and stuff, I kind of subscribe to this theory of thinking about it as the cost per acquisition. So if you were going to sort of take an average that I kind of see, it's rough, about $60 cost per acquisition. So for every $60 you spend on either Google ads or Facebook ads, you typically get to see one new patient out of that. So, if we think about it like that, 10 new patients, then, you probably want to look at a bit above that, maybe $750 a month on kind of ad spends.
Perfect. But Michael, for you to get there, the client needs to divulge these kind of things. Approximately it costs this much to get a client. And I know that when I've done a lot of advertising in the past, the question that I get asked is, how much is a client worth on average as well? It's like that also factors in, because like if you're spending $60 per acquisition, but client is worth $500 to $1,000, then the payoff is worth it. And a lot of maths in there to be done. And so I think that all of that is there. And the other thing, Mike, you touched on is messaging. Now, this is my big space as well, is in order to create more demand, and this is a question that we hear is how do I get more noticed in the market? And this is your messaging, which is, what's your USP? What do you want your brand to sound like? Because the thing is, especially in the medical space like you're in, Michael, is so easy to say, we're a dental clinic, we look after your teeth, right? Which I know it has to be there, of course, but it's like when I do websites and content creation and brand guidelines for these clients, we never just go, oh, we'll just write it the same way as everyone else does. We always sit down and we delve and say, what is it about your clinic that people come back for? And I think that it's such an important step, because especially with AI and a lot of these technologies out there, it's so easy to all look the same. Like you don't want to sound like the same dental clinic as 5 other, in your neighborhood. What do you think?
Yeah, totally agree. AI is a really interesting one. And I think, there are so many different ways to kind of distinguish a brand, but we love the concept of giving, copy a tone of voice. So yeah, kind of.
So easy to, and sorry, I just love your point there, is that for everyone listening, it's so easy to get stuck in your own business. Like if you look up legal firms in Australia, I would guarantee that if you did search the first 10, like 9 of them would sound pretty much interchangeable. And the problem with this is that typically what happens is when someone's searching for that kind of service, you end up competing on price. Because if you sound the same as 9 other firms, they will go to you and say, I need a will, or I need to be represented for a matter. One firm might say, oh, it's $2,000. And one will say, when $1,800. And you go, well, there's no difference, so I'm just going to pick them. Whereas when you actually sound different, position yourself as different, look different, that's when businesses and brands will will go, I know that you hear this sentence, I know that you're more expensive, but I've chosen you anyway. That's what tone of voice and messaging gives you.
Yeah, 100%. Do you have any techniques that you can share? Because people get mixed up, with the tone of voice and don't understand it.
Yeah. So for example, when I did this and I know it's different to your industry, but plumber in Melbourne, and they approached me and they said, we need to just write a website. And I said, great. And I said, listen, like you were saying, Michael, I want to sit down and have a chat about what we're discussing. So let's talk about what makes you different, what you want on each page. Now his response was, who cares? I'm a plumbing website. Everyone knows what a plumber does. Let's jump onto one of my competitors, here's 5, and make it sound that. Now right?
Yeah.
Just for everyone listening, this is the problem. You see, if I wrote it exactly the same, I wouldn't exactly, because you get in trouble for that legally. But if you sound identical to them, what do you expect people to do? They're literally, what they're going to do is they're going to get 5 tabs open and go interchangeable options. All right, cool. I need a new kitchen, plumbing. I need it in bathroom, or I need a hot water tank. What have you got? 1,000. 2,000, 1,700. All right. The 1,000 person's the winner, because there's no differentiator. Whereas when I was working with him, I insisted, I was like, let's sit down. So he was like, okay, we jumped on Zoom, had a good chat. And what I found when I started to delve, and it didn't take much, I delved and I found that he had a really young plumbing team. And he was a young guy himself, and he was obsessed with technology. So just out of his passion, he bought all the latest gadgets in the plumbing stuff because he loved it, right? So he bought all the, the snake with the camera on the end, right? Well, that's the whole pitch. With that tone of voice, I made it sound young, funky, technologically driven. So then what I did is I found the angle, because I said, what are the advantages of this tech? And he said, oh, well, it's more accurate, more cost effective. I can get in there faster. I can do less invasive problems. Like I don't have to dig up your pipes. I can have a look before we even do anything. And so I was like, guys, you're competing against plumbers that have to dig things up and cost more. And you've got this edge, and you've got they had an online app that could easily book clients in. So we spun the whole website saying things like that. We said, when you're working with us, you're working with a tech forward focused plumbing agency, which has all these benefits. And it was fun and interesting and punchy sentences. And it worked like crazy for him. And he was just baffled. He was so baffled, because he was like, I don't what? And I was like, because that's your angle. And so back to your question, Michael, was the tips and tricks is I sit down, but any brand or business can do that. Sit down and think what makes us genuinely different? Not like, what can we do? Let's have a think about it and make something up. It's like, what do we do every single day that is different about us that clients will get and will find relevant as well, right? Because like the tech stuff, we could just say we're tech focused. It was our tech helps your plumbing, keeps your costs down, less invasive problems. We can get in and out with us, noticing that we're there. All of that is tone of voice, distinction is what it comes down to. Did that answer your question, Michael?
Yeah, big time. Yeah. Funny because, it's just so important to get right off the bat. Yeah. And another thing we also preach is don't kind of, be very sort of, be patient focused on your website. Yeah, on your homepage, because like the thing is people just want to know what you can solve, if you can, and then, use the about page, or, you can talk about, or, even get technical on the service pages, but just leave that out of, the homepage.
Because that's a common question. Like they'll say, what are you going to do for my homepage? And I say the homepage is so pivotal, right? Because the homepage basically has so many different functions. I always say the first 6 to 8 seconds someone lands on your website, they should know exactly what you do. Right now, this is very hard for a lot of businesses because they will often think, oh, but I've got a point to make, or something like that. And a lot of the times you have to go, listen, I know that's what you want to be sound like. I know that's what you want. But when people land on your site, if you're too abstract, unless you can find a clever way to make them go, oh, FOMO, and want to read more, most of the time they just bounce because they'll go, I think I'm in the wrong place. And it happens all the time, right? So many websites, you jump on it and it has like, where this trouble comes from is they've had AI or someone internal write it, or they've had a copywriter that didn't take the time to understand the strategy. So what happens is they land on the site, for example, in allied medicine, it might say a revolutionary new take on health, right? Now that's a great sentence, but it needs to say something like, we look at body pain and come up with, like, it has to have something there so people go, oh, that I am in the right place. Because if you have something too abstract, like, a new take on health, people, it's not compelling enough. People will go, I don't actually know what you do. And so it's easy for me to just leave. And you might not think so. A lot of brands will go, no, they won't leave. Then they check their Google Analytics and there's a huge bounce rate. And it's because it's not. It needs to say, hey, we get, like, you're here for this problem. We do that. We fix that problem. And then you can go to the creativity after that. And so the homepage also has to then navigate people to the right place. And like you were saying, Michael, the about. Like,
the about.
How do you answer that? Like when a client says, what do you want? What do we do on the homepage? How do you talk about that?
Firstly, I'll say to her, leave it to us. Because, but I think at the end of the day, we have to sort of explain to the patient, like I was sort of saying before, what problems we solve. So just got one design up actually that I'm going to read now, but it's kind of like we help solve your problems so you can get back to your, grandkids playing golf, yada, yada, yada. And then it's like, how do we do it? Well, we combine physiotherapy and rehabilitation to help you to live the life you want to live. And then we kind of get, we're located in XYZ. We're taking private patients, work cover, NDIS, TAC. And so now you've got the full spectrum. And then what we do is then we just follow that same heading. So we've got 3 headings, right? How do we solve your problem? And we follow that down and we elaborate that on the homepage. So then, just scrolling down, we're talking about our services, who we treat, and then pretty much it's like, okay, how do we get started here?
There you go. And that's it. So that first sentence was that big abstract, but then you clarified it with we blend physio. And that's what it is. That's what it comes down to is it's not just keywords. It's like having those words that people can identify. Because if they go physio in Brisbane and it comes up with that site and it says, physiotherapy with people will go, oh, good, I'm here. Think about it, like, and everyone listening, think about all the times where you've said search for daycare or a particular shoe, right? And you go, all right, I'm going on a hike. I need a hiking shoe. And you look up like 7 or 8, right? You've got all these tabs open. And the minute that if someone's, when they say, the walking shoe for the ultimate climb or something like that, you go, oh, that's an option I want to look at on the homepage. If it's like, something really strange, people go, oh, okay, that's an option I can get rid of. This is what clients and customers are doing today. It doesn't matter if it's medical or otherwise, is that they are looking and they are checking their options and they're what I call digitally interviewing you. If you're not putting your best foot forward. You're putting yourself, out of the running for that initial screen, isn't it? Like,
Yeah.
especially in medical, right?
Yeah, 100%. And I think that comes in the way of just like writing blog posts as well, Basically, people ask you questions, just answer them through the blog posts,
Yeah, or
Yeah.
FAQs or both. That's what I do
Yeah.
a lot of
Yeah.
that is all those FAQs that you get asked, or your sales team here or your customer service team here all the time. They should be articles and blogs and videos and all that sort of thing, because when people are searching for it, you want your website to be found. And I would say, make sure that your website is leading the conversation, because that's how you attract more attention, which generates more leads and demand, which is what, back to that original question.
Yeah.
This is where, and I want everyone listening and watching to see how we got here, see the journey. When you contact a marketing agency and you say, I want more leads, and they go, okay, let's have a strategy session, or we've come up with some ideas around your homepage, your website, your blogs, your messaging. And you go, what? How does that work?
Yeah.
I don't understand how we got here. This is why. Do you see the journey we've gone on? It's like being distinct, increasing your reach, increasing your expertise and excellence, highlighting what you do differently. All of that, it happens so that when people are searching and hunting for information, as they do, your website comes up, and then it says the right things for them to go, this is the option I need for my dentist or my physiotherapist or whatever it is. I know we've covered a lot of questions. Is there any other questions, Michael, that you want to, what's another typical question that you get asked?
Yeah, I guess now it's really, we've covered like the website and tone of voice and having kind of like your offer there in a way. So how do we kind of transfer that across to like social media,
Good question. That's a question as well. People go, and you know what? I find that most businesses hate it. Right? They see this as necessary evil. I'm not trying to blanket everyone, but it's most clients come to us and they go, oh my God, I get that the chunky stuff needs to be done, website and all that, but this social media is like this never ending beast. The thing is, I agree with you, but like I said, it's a necessary evil and you have to be there, right? And a lot of people go, oh my God. But for my company, for instance, we've now gone onto TikTok, we're on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, Google, My Business, all of. Now, I know that some people listening might be like, oh my gosh, that's a lot to digest. I would say start small and go and grow big after that. Back to that question, Michael, is what do we do with socials? It comes down to, in my opinion, planning and saying, okay, what are we doing? Don't just go jump in. It's like, I always plan out the days of the week, the types of content we want to produce, and also how do we translate, like you said, Michael, how do we translate what we say on the website and our tone of voice to socials? And this is actually where I found AI is starting to actually have some traction. And now it's not, I just want to make sure everyone knows, it is far from foolproof. I've seen this firsthand. Oh my gosh, right? But if you have a good brand guidelines, and which is something that we do a lot of, let's see, what we've found is a lot of clients now are getting us to write their brand guideline messaging. And it's like a 30-page document. And then with us, we whack that into a chat GPT or an AI, and then we get it to pump out captions. But again, it's not perfect and you need to direct it. But it is a way that we're starting to see a lot of corners here that work. I mean, Michael, what do you say when people go, the drudgery of social media, what do we do? What's your opinion?
Yeah, it's a hard one, but I love the idea of just starting and just explaining the services that you offer. So getting comfortable with the get in front of the camera, creating those reels, and just kind of talk through, we create these service pages. We're always like, what is physiotherapy, or what is clinical Pilates, etc. So just answer those type of questions, and then you can just kind of once you get going and get the confidence, it's very easy to just continue with that. But like you said, it's just a matter of sort of getting that plan and going for it.
Huge. I mean, my team, what they do is we come up with questions and things we've been asked every week, and then they literally put it on my to-do list, and they give me 5 or 6 videos to record. So I just, on a weekend, I'm well past the being conscious about myself. When I first recorded, I was nervous, but now not even thinking. I just get 5 or 6 shirts and I sit down. I literally pump them out. So I'll go, hi, this is Chris from Melotti Media. So we got asked this week, how do I maximize my contact us page? And I'm like, here's the 5 things that we do, blah, 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 blah. Contact us if you need any assistance. and then change shirts, new one.
Yeah.
Like, how do I get more traction on LinkedIn? And I'm like, blah, 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 right? And so I feel like you were saying, Michael, is that's such a popular way. It gets a lot of traction on LinkedIn and even TikTok, they love it. And you can really sort of take off on those spaces. So yeah, so like I would definitely, if someone comes to me, I would say that would be, like you said, get in front of that camera.
Just do it. Like, just schedule a time in the diary if it's every fortnight or whatever, and just 45 minutes or an hour. You'll eventually just in that hour you might do the first couple of times, 2 or 3, but eventually you'll just get into a rhythm where you're kind of just smashing it out. Yeah. The other point you made is just jotting down those questions people ask. So important.
There's so many. People are so shocked until they actually take the time to go, wow, I've been asked a lot of things. And it could be even your own team. It could be, we got asked, why, and I know it's risky business in your space, but it could be like, why is the doctor always late? And I'm not saying that that's the end. You don't have to put that one in, but like, it could be, things like, how come the costs vary so much for procedures?
Yeah.
I know that you've got to be very political about it, but simply just saying something like, I'm this doctor from this particular clinic. So one of the questions we get asked is, how come we can't get a price up front? I'm just making this up on the spot, but it could be. And it's like demystifying that through a video and putting it on your website or an FAQ really helps. You can just say, while we try and be fully transparent with the way that we price, unfortunately, everyone is different, which makes every procedure different. And so we require different techniques and approaches, and that ends up with a different cost. So, we try and manage that as much as we can. But in the end, that's what, like if you give an answer to that, people will reflect much better on you than just this whole, we don't answer it. I get asked this all the time. Like, and we have I think I have 4 FAQ pages on my website, and it's all for different services. And it's just those FAQs that people have asked. And then I've made them into videos and made them into blogs and articles and things.
Yeah, totally.
That transparency is really good.
Yeah. And there's also a trick, I know it's been told hundreds of times. So you can just go to Google and Google the topic, and they've got their own sort of version of frequently asked questions.
I think it's called
people also
Google Trends is a good one. There's also the public.
Yeah, that's a great website. I'm talking about, even if you just go to Google and type in a topic, they'll have people also ask. And then if you kind of click the accordion like a couple of times and you get the 10 questions, and then you just kind of answer those.
Exactly.
Because,
Well, I think that was a great session. Are there any last pressing, burning questions that you get asked? Like, we talked about website, we've talked about content, we've talked about messaging, we've talked about tone of voice, budgeting and transparency around that, why we have strategy sessions, how do we generate more leads and demand, all of those kind of things. Maybe the last thing could be, why choose you as an agency? How you answer that. Like, it doesn't have to be very specific to you, but like, what kind of things should these businesses be looking out for in a marketing agency? If they've screened all of them and they're happy and they've go, okay, I get we have to have a strategy session, I get the budget and all of that. What should they be looking for? Yeah,
it's a great question. I think experience is a big thing. So making sure that an agency has had experience in your industry is really important. Just because, like, in my experience, working with different, like, Google reacts differently to different industries, like the solar panelists, the gymnasium, or even physiotherapy have kind of worked out what works best for physios and osteos and stuff. And that kind of feeds into everything, because Google Ads, I now know the keywords that work. So if you can find that agency, if you are looking for the agency that has done it before, I think that's really important. And I know this is like a bit biased, this is what we do, but content first is so important to the whole process of everything in marketing. I think, I had another agency before that was only building websites, and it took me like 4 or 5 years to realize like how important copy is, and it has to get done at the start of an engagement, because when you get the words right, it flows on to everything, like, images.
I want to put this somewhere on I want to put this online, because this right there is so, and I think people underestimate that, is that a lot of the time we spend so much time saying you need to build your messaging concepts first, because like you said, Michael, is that it flows onto everything, all of your videos, all of your socials, all of your website, all of your pieces. If you don't have a message and a unique message like locked down by then, everything else is going to be haphazard.
Totally. And the amount of times we've kind of created a unique selling proposition, like a little paragraph, and clients are like, oh, that's what I do.
Oh, we do all list it all the time as well.
Yeah. So it's like, I always say, like, start with the copy first and just like let that be the Bible for everything else you do online. Yeah.
Love it, Michael. Well, thank you. This has been a great session. I think we covered a lot of ground very, very fast. So I want to thank you, Michael, for joining me for the Message Marketing Pod, a special episode here. I think that a lot of businesses will get a lot of good use out of this. So thank you so much for listening into this episode. My name is Chris from Melotti Media, and please subscribe to the Message Marketing Pod. I'll see you in the next episode. Thank you.